Hello, I am Reverend Irene Smith, and I'd like to welcome you to Generationally Speaking. Here at the table, we come and we discuss life issues, no matter what they might be. As we sit at the table with each generation, we all learn, we all grow, we all are inspired.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Generationally Speaking. Hello, I am Reverend Irene Smith, and I want to welcome you again to Generationally Speaking 2024. Can you believe it? We made it. To God be the glory. And I am just excited about what God is doing this year for Generationally Speaking. Make sure you tune in for every episode. You don't want to miss one because the topic's going to be rich. You know, we don't back off of any topic. We cover it all. I know in the church they don't want to talk about certain things, but here on Generationally Speaking, we cover it all to make sure that you are inspired, informed, and that once you get that inspiration with that information, you are transformed by the renewing of your mind. Well, today I'm excited about my guest here today. And I want to we're going to be talking about a place of preparation because believe it or not, that's where we all are from time to time, that place of preparation that God drops us off in for the next step that he's going to carry us to. Well, I was listening in on Facebook, and I went back to my hometown, Toccoa, Georgia. Yes, yes, for all of you out there that says one stoplight, okay, we got one plus. Okay. We got a Walmart. But that's my hometown where I grew up, and I thank God for it. I thank God for the tribe that was there that nurtured me and allowed me to become the woman I am today. And I heard this young woman who was being featured by the Toccoa Improvement Association, and I said, Lord, you know what? I really want to have her on my show because what she spoke was just so powerful. And to see where she is now and how God is moving in her life and taking her and elevating her step by step. I said, oh my goodness, I've got to bring her on. So let me welcome first time and hopefully not the last time to Generationally Speaking, my girl from Martin, Georgia, which, my mom's hometown, Sharika Ware Wilkins. Sharika, I am so excited to have you on my show. I just saw you the other day and you spoke so well. Let me just say thank you for agreeing to come.
Thank you, Reverend Smith. I'm so happy to be here on Generationally Speaking. I'm super excited about the topics you've been covering. It's super powerful. I did some background research on everything you've been speaking about, the different segments. And I think it's powerful work that you're doing, and I'm glad to be a part of it today.
Well, I'm excited to have you. Sharika is that young voice that we, in our community, in all communities, need to hear our young people. I always say there's so much you can learn from them. They've taught me so much. And yes, there's so much that we can give to them. But what I've learned is when we sit at the table of discernment, and we got an ear to hear and we listen, we can learn. So I'm telling you, get your tea or whatever you're sipping on. Get your notebook, get your pen, get ready to take some notes. Hey, get the phone out. You know how we do. Hit the record button because, we get sort of lazy with taking some notes, but we will hit that record button on you in a minute. So get your phone out, hit that record button because we're getting ready to talk to Sharika about this place of preparation. And Sharika, first of all, I want you to introduce our listeners to, your hometown, how your foundational years, those early years that begin to shape the person you are today.
100%. So I am from the great city of Toccoa, Georgia. Population, I believe, is 8,000, but more than that, I am from a town within that called Martin, Georgia. Raised on a dirt road by a lovely grandmother who took me in when she was in her 70s, Bertha Mae Brock, who's no longer with us today, but she is the pillar of my heart that helped me show up as the woman I am today and transform my life. Our elders, generationally in the rural South and in rural communities, have been able to take over for the parents of young folks who come from diverse backgrounds and things happen. You know, that burden falls on those grandparents, but Bertha took it in stride. Bertha May Brock, my beautiful grandmother, took it in stride. She took all her resources and showed up, showed me how to be a young woman, showed me how to survive, what it meant to, you know, you said, you know, we as people come, you know, we are come to, we have came to be able to live life and life more abundantly, you know, and she is someone that was in a constant state of contentment, you know, she's in a place of peace. And I think it taught me about, you know, being grateful for where I am and what I had and wanting more, being okay with wanting more. She showed me that it was okay to want more and like really put put fuel on that fire within me. But she also showed me what it like to be content and that any way you bless me, Lord, I'll be satisfied, is how she said it. And I took that in stride.
You know, you mentioned something about you said my grandmother, Bertha May, and certainly I know all of these persons and how she took you in and she loved on you. And you could have gone a lot of different directions, but you took the positive and not the negative, and you allowed her to shape you, and yet you still had to deal with emotions that are just natural, you know, a part of, you know, I'm not sure why this happens, you know, I'm not sure why, but like you said, um, younger parents sometimes make parents, period. I'm a parent myself. We make mistakes. We're not always 100% where we should be. But like you said, this woman stepped up. Your grandmother stepped up,
And I
and
want to speak on that, Reverend Smith, if you allow me, with
yeah,
parents, you know, like, you know, I think one big thing for me is like my mother was physically abusive to us, my sister and I. A lot of abuse happened before we went to live with Bertha, particularly to my sister and to myself. And the biggest point, one of the biggest point in my growth with my therapy and psychologist is that we learn to forgive people who are not sorry, you know, and they like God forgive them because they do not know what they do. That scripture,
mhm,
because I was able to identify the sick people in my life. You know, now growing up, getting away from like the conditions that shape some of the like hurt in me that I've been able to overcome and like work towards. Like it's not growth is not linear. It's cyclical. You know, it's up, it's down. And one thing that has really been able to revolutionize how I feel about myself and like be able to heal that inner child is, you know, forgiving people that don't know they need to be sorry. And that's what I want to get the generationally speaking audience as you talk about breaking down generational curses and
mhm.
overcoming and being in the present moment, and like the things that built us and shaped us. I think I'm still being shaped as a young woman. I just want to mention that and give birth to her flowers for showing up for me the way that she did despite that.
Yeah, that's a great statement. When I was growing up, my mother was an alcoholic. But
Mm-hmm.
as and I really couldn't understand it all as I was growing up. But after I became an adult, I began to understand that she was self-medicating, that
Mm-hmm.
she had hurt, she had pain that I, as a child, didn't understand. But I came to understand it. And like you said, and to move past that and be able to see her strength, because I did watch her overcome alcohol. I watched her overcome smoking addiction. I watched her find herself. And it took 18 years, 20 years for her to find herself, because as far back as I could remember, you know, Monday through Friday was okay, but Friday through Sunday, we never knew what to expect.
Mm-hmm. I can relate to that, Reverend. That's powerful. I'm so glad your mother was able to find recovery. That's a blessing and able to show up differently. You know, I love what you said about the weekends being differently. You know, Bertha May was amazing. And the uncles, people that, you know, grandmothers are someone that are the matriarch of their family, right? So it wasn't strange for her boys, her older boys to come stay with us, you know, and like we live with like I lived with her son lived with her daughter lived with her, and we had like grandsons running in and out, you know, and like by way of the grandmother being the matriarchy of the family, people felt comfortable in gravitating towards her as the center. And with that came in and out of substance abuse, of like a lot of fear on my end about what could happen, you know, overnight. You know, I've seen people like been in spaces where they are experiencing like I don't know what to call it, like drug outbursts,
Yeah.
like tweaking, whatever it is. And to be able to come from where we come from and, that fear, that Friday through Sunday fear that comes up
Hmm.
and the instability in us trying to survive that
Hmm.
is a shaper. And it can be, and I'm so proud. I'm proud of like, I know it's different, but I'm proud of you. Look what you're showing up for now. Not only are you in a place of peace, but in a place of being able to give.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a difference. I just want to acknowledge that.
And perhaps it was Bertha who helped to birth that voice inside of you.
Mm.
So tell us about the sixth grade when you decided, look, I need to be tested.
Yeah, yeah. I think I appreciate that story servicing again. That's so interesting to me. I remember I didn't pass the first time I got tested. I actually was tested. I asked him to test me again. And like really went to the teacher to have my grandmother come advocate on my behalf and say, hey, grandma, like let them know that like she said she was going to test me again. Please make sure Miss Neal tests me again. And she was kind enough to do it again. I think what happened for me was that, you know, I never felt like as a dark skinned woman in the South, it's a little
Mm.
bit of a different experience, right?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
colorism is real and it's loud,
Hmm.
especially like being an all white school system. So for me, not really felt like I was belonging amongst Black folk because I was in Martin, Georgia, not in Toccoa proper, and I wasn't like I was in my grandma wasn't able to put me in activities like basketball and sports and that kind of thing. It didn't happen like that. But I felt like I needed something to gravitate to like really help build my self worth because I noticed that like whenever I did good, like thank God for my grandmother, another grandmother of mine, Beverly Hickenbottom, for putting me in gospel singings and like people from the community saying, you have a calling on your life, baby. You keep hanging in there. Like,
Mm.
like I would hear that all the time. You have a calling in your life. God is going to do something through you. You keep hanging in there, baby. That message right there says to me, when I'm in school, that message is still there for me. That's why it's important to have our young folks and put them in the MLK program, even despite if they want to or not. Put them in the Emancipation Proclamation. Make them sign up for that Tacoma Improvement Association scholarship.
Hmm.
But like those words went to school with me. So whenever it was time to get tested, and they were doing testing, like loop me in because I think I have a calling on my life. Because that's what Deacon so and so said,
Yeah.
and that's
You
where our
know,
community is up.
it's just amazing that at sixth grade that you found your voice to speak up for yourself.
Mm.
And generally, we don't find that voice that early. Where'd that voice come from?
Yeah, I just think it came from a space where like if chaos is happening at home, you got to speak up. Like bless you. When things are happening in your home space and things are a little bit chaotic and feeling unsafe, like and you become like the voice of like reason as a young age. A lot of our young folks end up having to parent up.
Yeah.
Um, and when you get home and like you are the person in the space, and, like also being raised by my grandmother, I'm an old soul. Like I'm an old spirit. So it wasn't anything for me being around an abundance of adults talking that old talk. Something I always celebrate that not always to celebrate the community is like I believe in kids talking back. And like I know that that's not celebrating our community, but giving young girls voices like, hey, quit talking back. No, talk back. Talk back.
Yeah.
Respect your elders, but you talk back. And that's what helped me show up in school. I'm being honest. That's what it was.
I think that's wonderful because I can remember my mother telling me no. And I would always ask, well, why?
Mm.
And people say, your mama didn't knock you down. I said, no, she didn't knock me down. I said, I always ask her, can you give me a reason? I don't know what was inside of my brain.
That's a loving mother too.
Yeah, just asking her if you can give me a reason for the no, then I can understand.
Mm.
I just wanted to understand why no.
Yeah. Yes. And
So,
like, yeah.
so you got tested. What happened?
Failed the first. I like did well, missed the section. I'm not the greatest at math, and said, "Hey, run the test back again." And that really prevented me. Like when I got that second round, I remember walking down the mill. Remember walking down my dirt road I was born on, raised on, and getting the newspaper from the mail and like walking it down, opening that letter to see that I had got in the program. But before I opened it, I went to the mailbox every day looking for that letter to see if I had got in or not. And when that letter came, I remember before I said, like, God, if it's for me, thank you, God, but I'll be okay anyway.
Yeah.
Like, that's something about being in church growing
Yeah.
up, like no matter how far you stray from it, it becomes different. Like, there's motivation in that no matter where you sit, you know? And being in a place where I opened that letter and saw I had got in that program, first thing I said, thank you, God. Thank you, God. And like, it's something about that repetition. Like, even if you're not, even if I believe in, like, I'm a little bit more open in my faith nowadays, and I believe that you have to have a higher power and it can't be you, right?
Right.
And I don't want to be too long-winded, so please cut me off, Reverend Smith,
So go ahead.
on these topics. But when you sit in, like, it's medically proven, scientifically proven that quiet time and meditation are a way to reserve your mind. And prayer gives our communities that when they don't have the language to say, I meditate. But when someone gets in their prayer room, that's meditation, you know? And it's helpful. And, you know, having that upbringing kept me sane in a lot of situations and times.
I'm glad you mentioned keeping you sane, because I know that for me, I grew up, like I said, with an alcoholic mother. I grew up in a house where we only had one bedroom, and my
Mm-hmm.
brother and my two brothers slept in one bed, and my sister and I slept in the other bed in that one bedroom. But on Sunday mornings, we made our way to church. We made our way to Sunday school. We went out to the evening prayer service. We went to all the revivals. I tell people I sat on the mourner's bench. They was like, "What is the mourner's bench?" We from the South to know these things. I remember people saying, Christmas plays, Easter plays, um, anything they had, it was always a push, you're going to be in it. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that tribe, that keeps you grounded, and a reminder, and teaching you who you are, helps to propel you. The church actually becomes the place of preparation, that place where you first learn how to speak to a lot of people, which may have been 5 people, but for you, it was a lot of people. The church also is that place of preparation, which says to you over and over, you can do it, you can make it, you can succeed, even though it all odds are really against you. Poverty and all the other things that come along with it are against you. But that tribe tells you, you know what, you can do it. And so I see that you had that tribe around you in the church, those mothers, and those deacons and deaconesses and the prayer band, and all of those folk who kept saying, you know what, baby, you can do it. For me, even the alcoholic who said, Irene, you can do it. I'm like, okay.
Mm-hmm. 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 Let them use you, baby. Let them use you. First thing I heard you say, I actually got it's interesting to hear you speak about the bedroom situation. My first bed was when I was in college at Georgia State University. My first time having my own bed. And even despite not having one coming up, I was sent to church on Sundays and my Sunday's best,
Mm-hmm.
and it was those folks. I used to sing when I was coming up. That was what my grandmother had me doing. I was in gospel singing. I sang at funerals, and like my grandmother would make sure that I got a chance to sing on Sundays every now and then, and like they make time for me to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have the best voice, but people treat me like I did, and like that's what it takes, like encouraging our young folk, and it is making them do all those programs, and Emancipation Proclamation this, and Easter Sunday speech there, and you're gonna make sure you get up and you're gonna make a joyful noise to the Lord. All you think you're gonna make sure you come get up and do that every Sunday and say it with your chest. And then if I ask you to do the announcements, you're gonna do those too. And it's something to that. It is something to that. It's something restorative about that. You talk about the preparation place. I love that topic. That's where it is. That's the formative years.
Yeah. So those formative years, as you matriculated from elementary and middle school and high school, and now you're taking that last march down the aisle for high school, turning that tassel and saying, you know what, you're now a high school graduate, and you're looking at college. How did you start that preparation for looking at college, and what did you think of about how am I going to do this?
Yeah, it's so interesting. In high school, I was a student advisory council, so I was the one handing out diplomas at graduation with the principal. And that meant a lot to me. And when it was time for me to go to the next level, to go to undergrad, our elders are taught to be close knit with their information, like social
Yeah.
security numbers, all those documentation. Like it was really hard process doing the FAFSA, which is the financial aid
Mhm.
student documentation that you need to submit for funding. It was really hard getting that data and that information. I remember crying and being all upset and frazzled about that and concerned that I wasn't able to get out, wasn't going to be able to have the resources to go to the next level. And, coming up, being responsible for myself a lot of times because there was so much abuse and addiction gave me the voice that I needed. That's why, all things work together for those of the good that love the Lord. All things is what it says.
Mhm.
God is intentional. And
Mhm.
I believe that he's using even that trauma that I had to give me the voice I needed to get me to the next level, to get to college. Because I remember finding that documentation, going online myself, knowing nothing about these, like have never paid a bill in my life at that point. Like going online, getting the documentation together and getting my grandmother to sit down in the library with me to submit the documentation. She didn't want to do it, but she did, you know? Um, and then I had to shout out Willie Woodruff, who, I reached out to him and like he reached out to me about like going to school, what's next, him and Marilyn Woodruff, who were some of the people that kept me in programs. Like, okay, you going to school? They wanted me to go to a HBCU. And looking back, that would have been a great opportunity. And I do encourage our young folks to consider historically Black colleges and universities. I ended up going to Georgia State, but if it wasn't for him sitting down with me and showing me how to get these scholarships and me getting online and finding scholarships and even student count, like me being in the student advisory council, getting access to the leadership of the school to say what scholarships are out there for me. I got the Horatio Alger Scholarship, which I encourage folks to apply for
Mhm.
people that like experienced abuse and neglect and like had rough upbringings. That's like they gave me $7,000 to go to school. The Toccoa Improvement Association that honored me last week in a beautiful way gave me $500 for books. The Evan Oglesby Foundation in Toccoa, Georgia, an old football player who retired, who gives money to students, gave me funding. Alpha Sorority Incorporated of Athens, Georgia, gave me funding. The community came together to make sure I had what I need, and I thank God for that. It took me having the diligence to find a school that fit a budget, like staying in state, and getting a scholarship from them as well. But if it had not been for Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Toccoa Improvement Association, the Evan Oglesby Foundation, Toccoa Improve, like all these foundations that came together, NAACP,
Mhm.
those are community-led organizations that put two and two together, made it $4 to put together for a student like me. And I'm grateful for that.
Well, that is so wonderful. And I know, while you didn't go to an HBCU, and when I graduated from high school, 2 weeks after graduation, a friend and I were picked up and we were taken to Tennessee. And we went to came out of an all black high school, all black school, because Whitman Street was just one school.
Oh,
And
you
we,
went to Whitman.
yes.
Oh, you're Toccoa for real.
And we went to an all white college, but it was a place of preparation.
Mm-hmm.
It really was. It taught me a lot about me. It taught me a lot about my strength. It taught me a lot about being able to stand. So when you got to the college, and now you're there, and you have to function as a young person on your own. What life lessons do you recall that your grandmother instilled in you that carried you through your 4 years of college? Because there are so many pitfalls along the way that you can easily fall prey to that kept you anchored.
Mm. That's a great question. Let me think. I will say, like, when you get out of an environment that was challenging in some ways and get to a place of stability, you're able to look back and reflect on that to see how that affect your present space. And for me, I started having symptoms of um, like mental health challenges as far as like not getting sleep and like being restless and not being in a place of peace. And I was able to go to counseling at Georgia State for the first time for free.
Mhm.
And I really want to encourage my young folks to do that because those resources are available. They're available with insurance companies. I think that's important. I want to leave that message with y'all. But as far as what my grandmother put in me, she would call me. I would talk to her pretty much every day. She's like, "How you doing? Is Jesus Lord?" "Yes, ma'am. Jesus is Lord." And she would, we come from humble beginnings, but she sure would put $20 in the mail for me, $40 in the mail for me, and send it right up to that school, and just love upon me and encourage me that way and have my back still. And I would tell her what was going on with me to some extent, because you want to protect them,
Mm-hmm.
But her prayers for me, she's like, I'm praying for you. And I know she was,
Mm-hmm.
I know she was praying for me because I felt it.
Mm-hmm.
I felt that she was praying for me. I felt the community like, I'm proud of you. So-and-so asked about you at church. Oh, they did. Oh, well, tell her I said hello. And like people being on Facebook and folks follow me on, like, we're so proud of you, Shrika. Keep going. Keep going. Those messages really stuck with me. And my grandmother was the one that was dismantling that word with me. Like, my baby is up there at Georgia State University. She just joined the American Marketing Association. That's my baby's out there doing that. She just got an internship with Stacey Abrams now. Did y'all know she got an internship with Stacey Abrams? And, like, she lifted me up that way and spoke my names in rooms that I wasn't even in. And that's what kind of grandmother she was.
But so I'm hearing you talk about these opportunities that you were able to participate in. And the question I know my audience is asking, well, what was it who was it? We know God brought you, but for my audience, how did you find out about these different organizations? How did you carry yourself on campus so that people were aware of Shrika? People were aware of this young woman who had a voice and was willing to speak up.
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think about being in classrooms. Georgia State University is not an HBCU, but it is in the heart of Atlanta. There's a whole bunch of Black folks there. And that was the first time I seen Black folks from Nigeria and Black folks from Guyana. And there was this one girl who we were flying back and forth doing interviews for Goldman Sachs and different companies, getting these things called internships. And I was able to identify that a school organization and an internship would take you further. Like being exposed to folks that looked like me, that didn't know poverty, didn't know under-resourced, and didn't know lack. That's why college is an important feat, because my good girlfriend, who I'm still very close with, Aisha Carter, going to her parents' house, her parents happened to be elders of the church. Seeing her, how she lived in this beautiful house and how she had these resources, like, I knew from the community that there's people in our community that have done well, but I was like, you can do this? This is how you can get that, And like, I got exposed to this, like, people are going out of state. Like, there's this Gilman scholarship, people are going to leave the country. And I got a point like, I want to get an internship. So I looked for all these internships in the spring, got denied.
Stop right there. Stop right there. I love the fact that you said, I got denied, which is a part of this